Hey everybody, welcome to our Ignite You travel show. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kieran Murray, and to my left off screen is my lovely bride, Sherry Murray. You can't see her right now. We're here in the Ignite You travel studios, and we have a very, very special guest tonight. We're going to be talking about river cruising, and specifically river cruising on AMA waterways. And so we've got a very special guest. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can bring her on. Let me make sure she's there. There she is, Jasmine Dowse with
Hello.
Can you hear me okay, Jazz?
Yes, I can hear you okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfect. I'm gonna turn off the Ignite You Travel, and I'm gonna pop your name up there so people know what your name is.
All right.
Here's what we're gonna talk about tonight. I'm so excited that you could be here. This is actually our first ever travel show where we're broadcasting live from our Ignite You Travel page on Facebook. And so we wanted to bring you on where we talked about, first of all, river cruising, like I was just saying, and then second of all, why AMA Waterways is so spectacular. And we know some of these answers because we just got to cruise with you about a month ago on the AMA Serena from, where did we go? We went from
Vilshofen to Budapest.
Vilshofen to Budapest on the Danube River. It was absolutely amazing. So what I want to do first is I just want you to take it over and tell our guests who are going to be watching right now live or they'll be going to watch the replay of this whenever. By the way, if you guys have any questions that you want to ask Jazz while we're live, just go in the comments below, add your comment. We'll ask her while we're actually live here. We'll get those answers. But tell us, Jazz, what makes river cruising, before we get to AMA, what makes river cruising so great? What's different between river cruising and, say, ocean cruising?
Yes, definitely. Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me on your show. It's an honor for us to be here and talk about river cruising. But yeah, the quote that I always like to use to kind of get people to kind of really understand the difference between river cruising and ocean cruising, because that's what's so popular nowadays is ocean cruising. Is that when you take a river cruise, it's a lot different because when you take an ocean cruise, the oceans can only take you to the country. But when you take a river cruise, the rivers actually take you through the country. And that's why people love river cruising, because it's so accessible. People like the fact that your river cruise ship can just pull right over to the bank of the river and you can actually disembark and explore the city. Now, what's really special about Europe is that most of the cities grew from the banks of the rivers. So when you're taking a river cruise, a lot of the places that you actually want to see are accessible from those banks of the river. So it just makes it really easy where you don't have to worry about a lot of additional transportation. And then it's the fact that you can get on that river cruise ship and everything's planned out for you. You can unpack your bags just once. Just unpack your bags once. And then you have this ability to sometimes see 3, 4, 5 different countries, getting on and off, disembarking and embarking the ship without having to go through what you'd have to go through if you were doing it by land, right? If you do it by land, then you have to worry about transfers. You have to worry about checking in and out of your hotel. Sometimes you have to worry about intra-connecting flights. And there's all these working pieces that when you take a river cruise, it's just not necessary because we do everything for you. It's like your luxury floating hotel is kind of like what we like to say.
And we went through 5 different countries, but the one thing, like when you were talking about just being able to get off the ship. So on an ocean cruise, people are accustomed to when you pull into a port, when the cruise liner takes you to the country, like you said. I love that. To the country versus through the country on a river cruise. When this goes to the country and you pull into the port, now you have to clear customs and you have to wait in this long line to get off the ship. If it's early in the morning, you're in a line to get off. But
Yeah.
If it's after that, it's easy to go down and walk off. But then you're clearing through security. You're clearing through security coming back, which really isn't that difficult. But the one thing I notice about the river cruise is you walk off the ship, and I mean you're on the banks 20 seconds later.
Immediately, exactly.
Even on an ocean liner, when they're great and everything, the docks are so long because the ocean liner is so big. You're walking 5 minutes to get into town because the dock is just so big, And so even if the lines are great, and so it never bothers us, not a big deal. But that was the big thing that I noticed was, okay, well, we're getting off the ship, and it's literally the banks are right there, right next
Yeah.
to us, and you're in town. You can start walking around town and going to visit these old castles and these old schools and these old
Right.
churches. I mean, we saw churches that were took 600 years to build, and
Yes.
schools that were built in the 1400s that they still use. Um, we were in the town where they filmed The Sound of Music, and my mom is this huge Sound of Music fan. We
Yes,
went to the
I
church.
am too. It's my
Oh, and
favorite.
we went to the church. I don't know if you did this, Jazz, but we went to the church where they did filming for The Sound of Music, and they were actually having a Sunday mass, and they allowed us to stand in back and observe the Sunday mass. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
wow.
I was like, this is crazy, crazy. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
is.
yeah, it was a completely different experience. We love ocean cruising. We had never done river cruising, but the experience was unbelievable.
Mhm.
No, there's no weather worries. We don't have to worry about the boat rocking too much. You didn't even know the boat's moving.
Right,
It
exactly,
was
exactly.
just like
And
being.
you realize that you spend more time actually exploring and experiencing than worrying about getting from point A to point B. So you're
Yeah,
actually able to maximize your time with river cruising because your river cruise ship is your floating hotel. So now that floating hotel is taking you to every destination along the way without having to deal with all the hustle and bustle and all the hassle of checking in and out and doing all those extra things when you want to see. Everyone wants to maximize their time, right? I mean, it's a like 9+ hour flight to get there. You want
yep,
to see as much as you can. River
right.
cruising is the way to be able to do that.
The other thing that we noticed was that normally on an ocean liner, you got get in at 8 in the morning and you're leaving at 4 or 5 in the afternoon because they got to start making way to the next port, right? So you're
Mm-hmm.
usually leaving around dinner time. And
Yeah.
on the river cruising, there was many times where we either stayed overnight or
Yeah.
they left like at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, so you could experience the nightlife wherever we
Mm-hmm.
were. And like for example, we were in Vienna and we left early in the morning, so we got to go to the Vienna Symphony.
Yes.
Matter of fact, you sat next to us, right?
Yes,
And
I
so
did the orchestra. It was amazing.
it was crazy. And I'm like, wow, we'd never be able to do this experience except on a river cruise because the ship is leaving, early in the morning to go to the next
Yes.
port versus, so yeah, we had a ball on it. And so let's switch gears then. So river
Okay.
cruising is awesome. We'll just agree to agree that
Super
river
awesome.
cruising is awesome.
Yes.
Tell me why, and I know you're biased, and I don't care,
Of
right?
course.
Why is on the waterways so awesome to cruise on?
Oh man, where do I even begin, right? I mean, I'm a waterways. First of all, it's been such a blessing working with the company because when I recognize in the industry as working with one of the best, it makes you really proud of the product that you represent. And with Alma Waterways, it's a family owned product. And I think that right there is one thing that sets us apart from a lot of our competitors is you feel that family touch when you're on board through the booking process, even the way that we work with our travel agents to make sure that you all are educated and able to do these type of trips for your clients. And so first thing I'll start off with is our ships. There is a legendary, very well known brand by the name of Berlitz that most people know as a language school. And they actually rated every single river cruise ship in Europe and found that AMA Waterways ships actually were the absolutely highest rated. We took the top 10 rankings out of 310 river cruise ships. And so that was a pretty big deal for us because we really take our time with only producing about one or two ships a year because we're all about the quality of the ship versus the quantity. So I would definitely say the design of the ship. We have a very shallow draft, so a lot of the times we're able to deal with low water situations a little bit more efficiently than some of our competitors. We have a retractable wheelhouse on the top, and so when there's high waters, we're usually able to navigate that as well. Now, away from the ships, when you start to get into the shore excursions, because that's kind of the meat of it all, with AMA Waterways, we offer you as many choices as possible. So we like to say that we're kind of like focusing on the luxury of more. And so the more choices that we give to our passengers, the better that you can actually personalize and customize the experience. And that way, it doesn't matter who you are, you can definitely have an unforgettable experience when you're traveling with Alma Waterways. We have our bicycles on board. So we've actually kind of been known to be a little bit more of the active cruise line, which has widened our demographic because now we can do bicycles on board where you can actually take the bikes off and go do just a general tour with a guided biking tour, or you can just kind of take the bikes off on your own, kind of like what we did when we were in Weserkirchen and we went to go get ice cream. We just took the bikes right off and rode out into the town. And that was really exciting. I would also say that the personalized service is probably something that isn't actually tangible, but that really separates us from our competitors because everyone raves about the service on board. The fact that, by the second day, the servers know your name, they know how you like your food prepared, they know if you like red wine over white wine. They go above and beyond to listen to small remarks here and there to see if there's anything that can do to surprise you and go above and beyond your expectations. And I think that goes into that family touch that I was talking about, is that you can really feel that.
And so some other things about Alma Waterways that I learned a lot, I think, from you while we were there and from the cruise managers and whoever else. So tell me this one, I believe, if I'm correct, so the river cruise lines there's multiple cruise lines. And the ships are basically all the same size because they have to be a certain size to fit through the lock. So they're all the same size.
Yes.
And a competitor ships of yours, another line, would have basically around 200 people on a ship versus you guys would have about 150, right?
Yeah, so like one of the biggest competitors, a little bit more of the mass market type of river cruise product, will have nearly 200 people on board the ship. And they're all about 420 or so square feet. And so some ships are, basically they're all the same size, but essentially there are some that have more people on board and have less. So we're on the side of having a little less people on board, which makes for a much, much more intimate environment. It makes it so that your staterooms are much larger. It also makes it so that because we have less people, we can actually have more double balcony staterooms. And that's what everyone wants, right? They want that balcony. You want to be able to kind of enjoy the beautiful scenery on your own personal, intimate balcony. And so because we have less people, we can have more of those type of staterooms that are in high demand.
And that's what I want to get to, is that the only way that the competitor can fit 50 more people on their ships of the same size is they have to make the staterooms smaller so they have more staterooms on board. So your stateroom will be bigger, more roomy, right?
Yes, exactly. Pretty spacious. They start off at about 170 square feet. And now with the new Alma Magna that we have coming out, they go all the way up to 710 square feet.
Oh, wow. And, here's what I noticed, because we started off in one cabin and we actually upgraded to another. And even the basic level cabin, Sherry and I are like, it would be so easy to stay in any one of these because you're very rarely in your room because you're out in town experiencing stuff, or you're up on the sun deck, or you're in the jacuzzi or the pool, or you're on the sun deck watching as you're going down the river. And I was like, we spent less time in our room on a river cruise than any other time before. So the size didn't matter as much to us, so I love that part. The other thing is I want to talk about the excursions. And the one thing I learned about other competitors that have excursions is typically they have one excursion that is free, and then they have another excursion that you can choose from that you have to pay additional for. But Alma Waterways simply makes them all included. They're all included in the price. So I know there's like multiple tours. So when we embarked, when we got into a new town, new city, new village, there are multiple tours to go check out. And they're all included, and so there's no more charge for it. There's nothing. I think the only thing we paid extra for was the tickets to go to the symphony in Vienna, and that was because it was an additional that's not normally there. Which, here's the other thing about that one that totally blew me away, and I don't know how you guys did this. So we went to the symphony in Vienna. There had to be. I started counting rows and seats, and I was like, there are 4,000 to 5,000 people in this place. We were in the Imperial Palace.
Yeah.
The place is huge. And so to get into it there was a lot of people. So there's some longer lines, you know, and when we got in, I was thinking, oh, there's so many people in front of us. We're going to be sitting in the far back in the nosebleed sections, right?
Right.
When we got in, they said, AMA Waterways, come with us, come with us. And they took us down to the front rows in the middle. Sherry and I and you and your sister sat in the 4th row, but even the first row, probably the first row to the 10th row, in the middle area was all AMA Waterways. And I was like, I do not know how they scored these tickets, but they were the most amazing seats. And I'm looking at Sherry and I'm like, we're in the symphony in Vienna. You've got to be kidding me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I love the fact that everything is included. There's no more pricing for the extra excursions. I love that. Totally love it.
So we have over 20 excursions over all of our itineraries that are all included, and only about a handful that are not. And like you said, you know, it's something like the Mozart and Strauss concert. There's one that's a full day in Salzburg. You know, there's an elephant encounter. There's a helicopter ride. So they're usually ones that kind of go above and beyond. But as far as your day-to-day, on average, 2 to 3 choices of shore excursions that are included from you to choose from on every single day.
And you guys actually have river cruises in Europe and Africa and Asia and Vietnam, right? So there's
exactly Europe, Asia, and Africa. Exactly.
Love it. So before the next question I was going to ask you is, what comes with when people pay to be on a ship? What comes with that? But so hold that thought. What I'm going to go to is something else we encountered. That we didn't understand when we went because it was all new, right? Was what was called pre and post stays.
Right. Yes.
And you had a host there that was the cruise manager. So without telling me about the cruise manager, tell me what a pre and post stay is. How does that work?
Okay. So AMA Waterways, and this is actually another thing why it's so great to travel with AMA Waterways, is because we are a river cruise company. That is what we do. That is where our expertise lies. We're actually not stretched among other areas. Our focus is all about fantastic river cruising experiences. So with our river cruise experiences, you'll typically have a 7-night cruise, 7 nights all the way up to maybe 21 nights, depending on the itinerary. And so if you're going to spend that 7 nights or so on the cruise, what we also like to do is make sure that you have a pre and or a post available so that you can also explore some of those major cities that you start and end in. So, for instance, the cruise that we went on, the cruise only portion, which you can always purchase cruise only, the cruise only portion took you from Vilshofen to Budapest. But then we had the optional 3-night pre in Prague. Or there were some people who did the 3-night pre in Munich, depending on what you wanted to do. And so being able to come into Prague, stay a few nights, do a shore excursion, have your meals included, have a transfer to the ship, everything arranged for you with the tour along the way, with the seamless embarkation, it just really makes it so that you can kind of get over the jet lag, you can get familiar with such a beautiful city before you start to get into that true river cruising experience.
I love it. And so here was our experience with the pre-cruise, is we spent, well, we were going to stay 3 days in Prague. We actually went even 3 days before that. So we did 3 days in a bed and breakfast and then 3 days at the hotel with the group. I think there was about 35 of us who did the pre-cruise in Prague. And you were with us and a bunch of other people who have become friends of ours now that we're staying in touch with. But here's what we found is, so those people are with us for 3 days. And the first thing is we got to start to get adjusted to the time difference in the city rather than on the cruise, because you might need some extra sleep, you know? And so if you're on the cruise, you need extra sleep. You don't want to miss anything when you're on the cruise, right?
At all. Exactly.
We love that pre-cruise stay. And so we spent that time in Prague, and Prague blew us away. We definitely want to go back to Prague, and we'll always do a pre-cruise stay there whenever it's available.
Yes.
But we loved meeting the people and getting to know them for 3 days before we even went on the cruise with them. Because then we went on the cruise with them, it was like, oh wow, I already know, a quarter of the ship, you know.
Yeah.
And so you have all these relationships. Here's the one thing that blew me away. So there was a gentleman that greeted us when we got there. We all, you guys had a thing
A
set up,
welcome desk.
a welcome
Yes.
thing for us, and that was in this back room. And I went walking in, we met this guy named John Riley. And now I just thought that John was the guy that was hosting us in Prague, and what a wonderful guy. He's just totally awesome. So I'm sitting there thinking he's the guy, just like lives in Prague, works for you, does the Prague thing, right? And so on the third day when we were getting ready to leave on the bus to go to Wilshofen, I asked him, I said, are you going in the bus with us? And he said, yes, I'm going on the bus, and then I'm going on the ship with you. And I said, oh, wow, you get to go on the ship too? How cool that? And he goes, I'm your cruise manager. And I'm like, when you say cruise manager, you mean like the cruise director on the big ships? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So the cruise manager is actually in that 3-day pre-cruise. And I think when I was on Alma Waterways, I was talking to you or somebody else, and you guys were telling me that is actually something specific to Alma Waterways, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's one of the highlights of why people love booking the pre and post is because that cruise manager actually stays with you the entire time. So if there's a pre extension, then they'll stay there with you for the pre extension. They're really there. It's kind of like a concierge desk, and really helps because you've been to a new city before, you have all this free time. You kind of want to know some information from someone who is maybe lives locally or is just very knowledgeable of that area. And so, for instance, John, he wasn't from Prague, but he was so knowledgeable, it made you think that he probably was, or that at least he was stationed there. So yeah, that is something that is very exclusive to Alma Waterways, is having not, instead of taking the standard route of having someone who is your land operator and then your cruise operator, we decided to make the cruise operator, the cruise manager and director, the same person throughout the trip, just for a very seamless vacation. And it just really makes I think it makes it really flow, especially if you decide to book that pre.
It was a huge difference. And because of his knowledge of Prague, we thought he lived in Prague until he lives in Budapest, right? And the other nice thing about that is so he traveled with us on the bus, and then he got on the cruise ship. And so when we got on the cruise ship, it was like there was 35 of us that already knew him, right? It's like we had our own special little secret club that the other people didn't have that advantage. But although they got to know him really fast, but immediately up on the ship, we know the guy that's in charge of everything there. Second, obviously, to the captain of the ship. And so it was just like, felt like we had the inside deal because we had already known the cruise manager for 3 days.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So let's go to the pricing. Tell me about when people pay their price to go on an Alma Waterways ship, what's included?
Well, before we move forward, I always wanted, now that I've experienced it myself and can really speak to it, I like to talk about another reason why doing a pre is so important. Obviously, you have your jet lag, but the airline carriers and the luggage carriers and things like that, it's getting a little bit more kind of chaotic nowadays. And you're starting to hear more and more about sometimes luggage being delayed or, maybe not making a connection. And so it really helps when you have a pre-stay to just be put in a major city just in case something like that happens. So we would always recommend, no matter what, at least go in 2 or 3 days before your trip, get acclimated, make sure everything's all situated so that when you get on your river cruise, all you have to worry about is just indulging and experiencing. So I just wanted to add that. But when we talk about pricing, I would say we are essentially all-inclusive. So we're not one of your all-inclusive lines, which I think really works for us because you'll realize that even though we're not all-inclusive, we tend to be more inclusive than some of the all-inclusives because of what we do include, because of our inclusions. And so that kind of goes into those tours. When you have 2 or 3 tours that are included per day versus just one. When you have all of your meals that are included throughout the day, which are 5-star meals. We're part of La Chaîne de Rotisserie, one of the world's largest food and wine organizations. So your culinary experience is top notch. That's included. We also provide unlimited fine wines, champagne, and beer during your meals that are free-flowing, complimentary during your meals. And then now for 2018, something new that we offer that we got to actually experience together as well is the Sip and Sell Cocktail Hour. And so I kind of make a little joke. Sometimes we're sipping and selling, sometimes we're drinking and docking, but it's the same thing essentially, right? And so basically, it's an hour before dinner every evening where we have a selection of cocktails that are made available to the passengers that they can order complimentary throughout that hour until they're ready to go to dinner. So that's also included. You have all of the active excursions, the regular walking excursions, the gentle walking excursions, the fact that we have all of those different paces so that there's something for everyone. That's also included. When you book your airfare with us, we will make sure that the transfer will come and pick you and meet you at the airport with a sign and take you over to either the hotel or take you over to the ship. So the transfers are included when you purchase our air as well. So essentially everything is included except the hard liquor, because as I mentioned, we do the champagne, wine, and beer, and then we have that cocktail hour. Your gratuities, which I think is really important because you see just how hard the servers and the staff on board work. I mean, it almost seems a disservice to include the gratuities because you really want to show your appreciation because they go so above and beyond. It's almost astonishing to see how well their brains work to remember some of these things. Sometimes I have problems remembering someone's name that I just met, a couple weeks ago, let alone someone that's, just hanging out on the ship. And so basically everything's included except your hard liquor, your gratuities, and your airfare is not included in that price either.
And something else that I know you missed that is a big deal to other people, it's included is free Wi-Fi on the whole ship.
Yes, free Wi-Fi on the whole ship. So not only do you have unlimited Wi-Fi, and it's actually pretty fast.
Yes.
We kind of make a joke about this, but we actually spend more money on bandwidth than we actually do on fuel.
Really?
And I know it's a bit of a joke, but it goes to show that it is actually the customer experience that's most important. Yeah. And so when we can make sure that you can get on board and share your pictures and your videos with your friends and family, stay in contact with your family, still be able to handle business, that's a big part of traveling as well. And so we did put a little bit of our focus there. So unlimited Wi-Fi throughout the ship, but not only that, if you don't want to bring your own personal devices, there's actually a Mac monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse in your stateroom where you also have complimentary internet. So you can either go in the room and use the essentially kind of desktop, or if you have your phone, your iPad, your tablet, you can use that. It's totally up to you.
Yeah, for the people who might have been on an ocean liner cruise where you had to take maybe your laptop with you, you don't have to take your laptop because you have a computer and it's a big screen. It's actually your TV screen as well.
Yes.
And it doubles as the Mac computer with free Wi-Fi. It's awesome. One of the things too that Sherry and I were loving when we got back, you were talking about that personalized customer service and people learning your names. When we got back, we actually got a postcard from the cruise manager and the hotel manager.
Yes.
Telling us how excited they were that we joined them on the cruise and just amazing stuff. We just totally love that.
And it was handwritten and it was signed by the cruise manager, the hotel manager, and the captain.
Yeah.
Which is so amazed with that. There's those small touches that make so much of a difference.
Yeah, totally love it. So let's switch gears. I know we're going to run short on time. I want to talk about when Sherry and I got home, we said, you know what, we want to book something with Ignite You Travel to do a river cruise for our friends, our clients. And so we chose next November, November 2019. It's a wine cruise that goes from, I have it right here with me, Nuremberg to Luxembourg, from November 14th to 21st. Can you just tell people what a wine cruise is in addition to a river cruise?
Yes. So as you can see, I have a big smile because I love some wine. And so the wine cruises are such an amazing experience. So basically what we've done is taken one of our standard European itineraries and added a wine twist to it. So you do still go out to explore a little bit of the local culture and kind of indulge into finding out about the history and some of the historical landmarks that you can check out. But in addition to that, what we've done is actually vetted winemakers and winery owners from the States who are very knowledgeable about wines within their region and some of the European wines as well. And so we'll actually bring them on board as a wine expert. So they are the wine host for that departure. And what they do is they actually lead lectures where they talk about old age wine versus new age wine. You have wine tastings, you have wine pairings with dinner. And then during your tour, sometimes you'll actually go out to local wine cellars or go to wine vineyards or go to local wineries and do wine tasting there. So we basically added this wine package for no additional charge. And so you still get to experience some of the standard tours, but then you also get this amazing wine experience where you really get to compare some of the old age and the new age and really kind of get a little bit more of the taste of the European culture as well.
I love that. And so I know you only offer wine cruises 2 months out of the year, November and like March or April or something?
Yeah, usually November and March, but we've kind of broken away. There are some times where we're open a few, maybe in April, maybe a couple of throughout the year, but the most times that you'll see them are going to be from March and November. Those are actually the best times to travel for the wine season. There's a lot of wine festivals going on. The areas that you're in, the regions are not as busy. So it makes it so that things go a little bit smoother. It's not as crowded as when you and I went during the summertime. So actually March and November are the perfect time to travel for wine cruises.
And so like when you said too, the cool thing is that since it's the perfect time for wine season to go in March and November when we're having ours in November, the other cool thing about it is that's actually the best time to cruise when it comes to the regular fare because it's actually less expensive to cruise at those times rather than the high summertime peak seasons. And so people that want to experience a wine cruise can actually sail for less money. And it's actually significant. It's really significant the amount of money you can save by sailing in that November, March timeframe. But there's one better offer. So if people want to come with us on our river cruise, their starting rate is much lower than in the summer. But we have a special offer where they can save some money until August 31st. Tell us how that works.
So basically, we have a fantastic offer that we're putting on this group for you all, and it allows you to actually pass on to your clients a savings of $1,000 off per person. That's a pretty big deal. That's a really substantial savings, and it is going on until the end of the month. So that's fantastic. You have all the way until August the 31st in order to be able to take advantage of that. And the space is a little bit limited. That's the thing about river cruising is that we book about a year, sometimes a year and a half in advance. So, now's the time to grab that cabin if you want. And that $1,000 off is going to expire soon. And then I just thought it might be nice that, since we're having this wonderful show, we got some viewers, if we get anybody that mentions the show and books within the next 2 weeks, we'll throw in some extra onboard credit for you guys.
All right, that's awesome. Wasn't expecting that. I love that. So,
just a little cherry on top.
I love that one. So the other cool thing is if you think about saving $1,000 per person, that's your airfare. So literally the money you're saving buys your airfare to go over. And this is what I love too, is if people want to book this before August 31st to save that money so they can pay their airfare and it's included, right? They can actually book now with a deposit of $400 per person that locks in their cabin, and they don't have to pay that off until 90 days before the cruise next year. So it's like next August, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't even have to pay all that now. And so if you want to know what those fares are, if you're watching the show, just add a comment below that you want to know what the fares are, what's going on with that cruise, or send us a message, or reach out. And a lot of you already know us, but you can save a ton of money by if you come on this cruise and book it by August 31st. And even after that, they're saving money by sailing out of the peak season, and that's the best time for the wine cruise anyway. So this is like a triple whammy.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, so I am just completely stoked. I'm so excited to get back on an Alma Waterways ship. I actually hope we find something to go on before next November, but 2019, it was just so much fun. And a lot of that, was due in part because we got to sail with you, and you're a seasoned river cruiser and Alma Waterways cruiser. And so you got to show us a whole bunch of something. I just loved that experience, and we were so happy to be with you and your sister. and meet all the other people. And we are so totally stoked. I know how busy you are. I know you've got a multi-state region that you cover in the Pacific Northwest. So for you to be able to take the time and come on our first show and let us interview you and talk about river cruising, we can't tell you how humbled we are that we can include you as a friend of Sherry and I's, and the amount of support that you have for Ignite You Travel and for Sherry and I. We just love you to death. So thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
And my final is, we know how it wraps up. When it's time to travel,
Ignite You Travel.
That's it. I love you, Jazz. Thank you for being here.
Bye. Good night. I will talk to you all soon.
Right on. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.